in fact, we do have live video at this time of all 6 astronauts who will be flying aboard Space Shuttle Atlantis today. Marcia Ivins, mission specialist, is preparing for her 4th flight aboard the Space Shuttle. And of course, our other astronauts include our commander and pilot, Commander Mike Baker, pilot Brent Jett, as shown here. Mission specialist John Grunsfeld. He'll be making his 2nd flight into space today. And of course, rounding out the crew, we have mission specialist Jerry Leninger and mission specialist Jeff Weissoff. Of course, mission specialist Jerry Leninger will be remaining in space. He will be staying for about 4 months until Atlantis goes back to get him. This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 3 hours and holding. And we have our first look of our commander, Michael Baker, as he is being suited up for his 4th flight into space today. Pilot Brent Jett, of course, giving thumbs up. He's ready to make his 2nd flight into space. Jerry Leninger is going to be going into space, this on his 2nd trip, but it will certainly be his longest. He'll be staying on the Mir space station. Mission specialist Jeff Weissoff preparing for his 3rd flight. Mission specialist John Grunsfeld making his 2nd flight into space today. And the last member of the crew is mission specialist Marcia Ivins. Crew is being led by Commander Michael Baker, pilot Brent Jett, mission specialist Jerry Leninger, John Grunsfeld, Jeff Weissoff, and Marcia Ivins. Mike Baker is being assisted, being strapped in. Mission specialist Marcia Ivins has just entered the orbiter. She is on the middeck where she will take her ride into space today. and she is making final adjustments to her communications cap. Our pilot, Brent Jett, is going to be the next to enter the vehicle, and he'll be taking his seat next to Commander Mike Baker. And we're back with pictures of our white room again. 3 of the 6 astronauts have been placed aboard the orbiter. Here we're looking at Jerry Lininger, who will be seated on the middeck with Marcia Ivins. They're making final preparations to get him in. And once Marcia is fully established in her seat, then Jerry will be climbing aboard. This again is a view from the middeck of astronaut Jerry Lininger as he is in the process of being strapped into his seat.
FCT 567, your fuel cell purge, you got to go on that. Copy that. Can we get a CMQC on 1530? Surely. QC? CMQC, okay.
In the white room, mission specialist John Grunsfield is shaking hands and making preparations to board the orbiter.
Morning, John, you're loud and clear, awesome.
And again making voice checks with NASA test conductor John Guidi.
MS4, com check.
MS4, we read you loud and clear. Good morning, Jerry.
Morning, Kevin, going to mirror, loud and clear. And range weather? Roger, sir, we have no constraints to launch. And mission management team? Jim, the MMT is looking, no issues, you're clear to launch. Copy that. And Atlantis, looks like everything's come together here. Looks like a good morning to launch. So, Mike, you and the team have a good rendezvous and a great mission, and we'll see you back here in a week and a half.
All right, thank you. I thank all the people for all their hard work here at KSC preparing Atlantis for its mission to Mir.
And NTD, you're clear to launch. Copy that, launch director. Copy that, launch director.
And the orbiter access arm is now being retracted away from the vehicle. This is the walkway used by the crew to gain entry into and out of the vehicle, and it can be returned to position within seconds if need be. And the 3 main engines are being gimbaled as a final test before launch. T-minus 3 minutes and counting, and all is going well for today's launch. This mission carries a crew of 6 who will spend the next 10 days in space, 5 of those days docked with the Mir space station. The orbiter test conductor has requested that pilot Brent Jett clear the caution and warning memory system. Everything looks good, and we're cleared for launch today.
So DC caution warning is clear and no unexpected damage.
Okay, and flight crew, close the launch devices, initiate O2. And on behalf of the launch team, have a great mission.
Roger, work, thanks.
CLS is go for ET, LH2 pressurization.
12, T-minus 10, 9, 8. We have a go for main engine start. We have main engines up and running. 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of this Space Shuttle Atlantis on a 10-day mission to dock with Russia's orbiting outpost.
Houston now controlling the flight of Atlantis.
Atlantis, welcome.
Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Atlantis into the roll to place the shuttle in a heads-down, wings-level position for the 8.5-minute ride to orbit. Seconds into the flight, Atlantis' 3 liquid fuel main engines now throttling back in a 3-step fashion to 67% of rated performance. That will dampen the stress on the shuttle's aero surfaces as it breaks through the sound barrier. One minute into the flight, the main engine's now beginning to rev up to full throttle, 104% of rated performance. The throttle up call coming up from spacecraft communicator Kevin Kriegel here in Mission Control.
Atlantis, go at throttle up.
Roger, go at throttle up.
1 minute, 20 seconds into the flight, Atlantis traveling at 1,500 miles per hour. Now 10 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center, 13 miles in altitude. The shuttle's 3 main engines, 3 auxiliary power units, 3 power-producing fuel cells, all functioning normally. One minute, 50 seconds into the flight, standing by for solid rocket booster shutdown and jettison. That command to come from the onboard computers through the master events controller on board Atlantis. Booster officer confirms a clean solid rocket booster separation. Guidance now converging on Atlantis' 3 main engines as they begin to steer for a precise keyhole in space for main engine cutoff.
Nominal.
Roger, performance nominal.
Atlantis, 2-engine Maroon.
Engine maroon.
Those calls from spacecraft communicator Kevin Kriegel to Commander Mike Baker aboard Atlantis indicating that the solid rocket boosters provided the desired performance during the first stage of this morning's ascent to orbit. And if one main engine should fail, Atlantis has enough inertia to make a transoceanic abort to Morón, Spain. However, all 3 main engines continue to function by the book 3 minutes into the flight.